Cats, cops, and C4. Brain tripping over ideas today and unable to process them fully. But we're far from over yet. I was wondering when you'd notice that, Vera says as Cenk pulls another small shard of metal out of his fist and he shrugs. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug, he notes calmly. The news that they had found the Mindslayer had gone over well, and they were now on protection detail. The wretched thing was both evidence and a mortal threat. Backup would be here any... Axiom twists and bends around him, and he shifts his grip on the sharp shard of metal in case he has to put it into someone's eye. Human, undaunted, he lets the metal slip into a more passive grip. Most prominent is a man in a tri-tite plated hazmat suit. The banana yellow of the hazmat and the sky blue of the tri-tite look ridiculous together, but they quickly get towards the drone that no one has touched since the Mindslayer was found inside and begins to slowly take it apart. Do you need anything for that hand? A medic asks Cenk, who considers it. I am leaking. He notes and holds it out. A scan is taken of the appendage, and a few more shards he completely missed are pulled out of his hand before some rubbing alcohol is sprayed on. Really? The sharp chunks of metal don't even get noticed, but you flinch when it's getting clean? Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. Cenk repeats himself, even as his hand is quickly wrapped up with medical tape, and he nods. I suppose it's too much to ask you to not fistfight a car, the medic says blandly. If a car wants to throw hands, it better be ready to catch some. Cenk replies, and there's a groan of disgust followed by a chuckle from the medic. That's as close as I can get. But still, try to keep your brawls with machines to things no bigger than a van. A starship might actually kill you. Noted, Cenk states, even as he senses the axiom twist in the extremely complicated but familiar pattern show itself. Like a damn gravia gone completely insane, a small glass container is lifted out, and it's already half filled with resin. A small drone is withdrawn and piloted to physically pick up the device and drop it in the jar. Then more resin is poured into the jar, and it's sealed over top. The resin in jar does nothing to halt what the Kutha sliver is doing to the axiom, but its triggers of needing physical contact are still active. It's contained and still usable as evidence, the hazmat-clad Undaunted says before tapping a device on his shoulder. He vanishes in a teleport. All right, I suppose we're on helping clean up, the medic notes. More sorting out the unconscious and deactivated for containment. Not sure how much we can ding these women for going after a bounty, but we've at least got them on trespassing and conspiracy to murder, Cenk remarks. Oh, we can get them on a lot more than that, but trespassing and conspiracy to murder are two of the more solid ones, Linda says even as she pulls out a communicator. Hello? Yes, hello, officer. I'm Officer Linda Score from Spireside. I'm sorry for not calling earlier as things started, but it got hectic quickly, and it's only now that I have time to actually call for you. Thankfully, there are no casualties. Before she even opens her eyes, she knows something has gone wrong. Opening them merely confirms it. She's in a cell. She tries to teleport out, but try tight walls. Sorry, short stuff. You're in an anti-adept cell, a male voice says, and she sits up. That's right, undaunted attention. I want my lawyer. He's already on his way, but considering the man's been hyperventilating at the sheer amount and severity of the charges leveled at you, well, I suggest breaking open the bank account and getting a few more, the voice says even as she looks around the cell. The local axiom is thin. Not dangerously so, but her wing crashes against the reinforced glass between her and the outside. The whole thing was reinforced with tri-tite mesh just beyond it in another massive panel. What gives you the right to make some form of arrest against me? The fact that you have made numerous attacks against our citizens and soldiery in good standing, the assassins you've hired, the assassination contract you've accepted. I have no idea what you're talking out, Juliet declares, crossing her arms. As your lawyer would no doubt instruct you to say, however, considering the scale of the evidence found against you, we will be holding you until such time as you will be going before a judge, the voice tells her. So you won't just prejudicially execute me? I'm glad to see there's at least a veneer of civilization in these proceedings, she states before leaning back. I expect to see my lawyer within the hour. Otherwise, I'm going to be bringing up further charges against the Undaunted. He's already on his way. Good, Juliet states before closing her eyes as she thinks. She needs a few minutes to think. She has to assume they have everything. Everything. Which means that if she actually gets to court, she's going to be nailed to the wall. But they're clearly aware of her axiom skills and her slippery reputation, which means that she needs to use some other way to get out. Get out, get around, get away. Her major points where she can escape will likely be during transport or, more realistically, while being transported to her transport. If they use a portal, she might have a chance to alter its coordinates, and a teleport is much the same. A perfectly timed interrupt can either cause a large distraction, giving her a better opportunity to flee, or get her out of custody entirely. Then she has to get rid of any and all trackers they have on her and will place on her. And considering they've had her unconscious, that includes possible implants. Of course, that's all depending on how they react in the time until the trial. A trial that is no doubt going to be a farce that will have the conclusion brought about even before she steps foot in the room. Efficient, but savage. They likely know a few different identities she's had in the past if they've gone through all her effects. Hopefully she can still pin this all on Miss Small. But it was always a distraction more than anything else, and she doubts it will buy her much more than scorn if they're this zealous. "Miss Comet?" a familiar voice asks, and she turns with a smile. She hadn't heard the man approach, which is concerning, but her lawyer is here. "Yes, Arthur?" "Good to see you now." "Please tell me you haven't used Mind Slayers," Arthur demands in a panic. The drain was prone to panicking and subconscious hand-wringing with his extra limbs. Couple that with a slight mutation that made his antenna sparkle ever so slightly, and he was the very picture of nervous innocence, a picture that rubbed off on her very easily. "I'm not even fully sure what those are." She lies smoothly, and Arthur lets out a sigh of sheer relief. She's going to have to contact her more whip-cracking lawyers. The innocent face and gentle presence of Arthur can sweep aside most juries. But if things are going hard, she wants hard women beside her. "Arthur, are you sure you're up for this? This is an entire organization up against me now. Could you call in Jenny?" "Jenny, from Jenny's and Jenny's?" Arthur asks. "Yes, with how badly this is affecting you, I think I'm going to need the harder girls to take care of this slander." "This is beyond slander, ma'am. If you're not directly involved, then they still have an entire mountain of charges against you for indirectly aiding in terrorist attacks and potentially funding a present and extreme danger across numerous different jurisdictions. If things had been contained to Vanitas, then I might have been able to swing things to be smaller and settled out of court. But Aspire has been affected by this, including a full-on attack on a police station and a massive prison break, both of which are being thrown on the pile as well." "Excuse me?" "She didn't have anything to do with the attacks. Ma'am, they're accusing you of being a multi-jurisdiction terrorist and criminal that has sparked a massive gang war within a police station that then led to an entire prison complex being attacked. I've been reading through what they're trying to bury you under for the past several hours, and skimming it in bullet point alone is terrifying. Even if we get everything but a single percentile of a single percentile dropped, it's still enough that there's no avoiding a full judge and jury. And that's not even the worst part." "What's the worst part?" Juliet asks. This situation had already gone from bad to worse and seems like it still had a ways to go. "They've called for the Tritite lady." "What?" "Mind-controlling veils. Mind Slayers. The Undaunted have called for the Tritite lady to help them seek out and purge these abominable technologies. The court of the goddess is coming, and the primal worshippers are already holding impromptu festivals for justice and judgment. They're even being joined by mass amounts of insectoid races. My own aunt is taking part in the festivals. If this goes badly..." "Calm down. I am innocent, this will be proven, and I will walk out of this alive. But you're clearly in over your heart, Arthur. Get Jenny and tell her everything. Tell her that she has a blank check for everything she needs to get as much backup and as possible. If the Undaunted are trying to twist what a good chunk of the galaxy thinks is the living embodiment of justice into a mockery, then they have another thing coming." Yes, ma'am, I'm on it," Arthur says before looking around. Is there some way I can stay in contact with her? This is required, and we will provide her with private but limited communicator to keep in touch with you. I must insist on getting her one myself. Attorney-client privileges must be invoked. I need to speak with Miss Comet privately whenever I so please to discuss the case. You are, after all, a hostile party to her. and it would be a violation of her rights as a galactic citizen to, do you have one on your person? You can give her that and then trade it for one you buy. We'll even reimburse you for it. The still unseen speaker says, That will do, but Jenny and I will require another place to actually speak about the upcoming case where you're not listening in. This is a gross violation of privacy. She stands accused of being a mass murderess, thief on a truly mind-boggling scale, and is an active and known escape risk, among many other things. Every place we hold her requires an enormous battery of security features, the voice states. Be that as it may, if you want this to be something other than a complete farce, you will be allowing my client time to properly discuss her case. This will not be like when you had that poor woman sentenced to death after she was accused of sending criminal gangs after you. We did not sentence her to anything. The judges of other polities did. Looking for a hanging judge in order to keep your hands clean is just indirect murder, and you will never convince me or any legal practitioner otherwise. He snaps and Juliet leans back a bit. Well, looks like the bug has found a bit of a spine. Another thing that will be a pity when she abandons this identity. Miss Comet? You're looking at me oddly. Sorry, I was caught up in thought, she says and considers again. She can't give any hint that she's anything other than innocent. Otherwise, this will all fail. Now please get Jenny. Even if this wasn't so overwhelming, then you'd need to have as much backup as possible. I will. Don't worry, ma'am. I'll get you out of there. He promises her, and soon enough she's left alone in her cell. So is there food to be had, or am I going to be executed via starvation? We could place you in stasis between visits from your lawyers. The speakers sound out, and she pauses at that. They could. It wasn't dangerous, and it wasn't abusive. Could I please just have something to read? She asks, and a minute later, a panel in the wall opens. There we go. A weak point. Perfect. Inside is a collection of magazines and several novels she doesn't recognize. It's all human entertainment, but translated to galactic trade. It's all also in physical paper. Your meals will be in the same slot later, the voice on the speaker says. Of course, they will be. Why wouldn't they? She asks as she pulls them out and leaves a tiny bead of axiom inside. It will detonate later, and when the panel is open next time, the echo of the detonation will give her a look into the room next to her. See if it can be useful in an escape.